Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. And today we're going back to the mid-century modern, and it's very unusual floor lamp. Three-light floor lamps are not that unusual. Most of them have a single pipe come up to a sort of a junction with these gooseneck type things coming out of them. This one is a little weird because it's got three pipes, and instead of three goosenecks, it's got one uplight. It's been rewired one time before, and apparently the original socket shell was lost, and that becomes a problem because shells are held together with these little teeth that snap together, and when you have the base made by one manufacturer and the top made by another manufacturer, they never seat properly. They won't snap in place, and no matter how hard you push them in there, just ordinary normal use is going to pull them loose. So I've got a vintage socket here that I'll be putting it back together and hope that this problem doesn't happen again. Now I get a lot of comments about the jigs I use to hold lamps in place, especially the floor lamps. But it makes all the difference in the world when you've got something awkward like this thing, real heavy on one end, real light on the other end, and no way to lay it flat on any kind of bench. I was impressed when I looked at this part. Things that you don't see in a lot of amateur rewiring jobs. First, they've got these little plastic caps that protect the cord from being cut by the pipe. And second, they have fabricated this little gizmo right here, and what it does is it takes the stress, and so that this cord can't be pulled out from the pipes or from these connectors. The only thing that doesn't actually come up to lab standards is the wire nuts. We never use wire nuts in the lab, but for many years that was just about the way it was, the only way it was done. I'm going to go ahead and cut all this out while I've got it here on the bench. That is clever. Basically, they've taken a piece of wire, soldered it into a loop, wrapped it around the pipe, and then with zip ties, used it to hold on to the cord. That's why they say necessity is the mother of invention. Before I start taking the top apart, I'm going to solder the new cord to the old one. That way when I'm fooling around up at the top, I won't have to worry about this wire disappearing up the pipe, which would require me to stick something else down the pipe in order to pull the wire, because with a pipe this long, there's just simply no way that you're going to be able to push it. You can get away with that on a regular table lamp, but once you get past about 3 feet of pipe, even if it's perfectly smooth and straight, there's enough friction that this rubber wire just balls up like that, and you can't get it through. The uplight here in the middle has a regular shell socket inside of it, which presents a kind of a problem because it's difficult to get your hand down in there to get this thing unsnapped. So I'm just going to start with taking this extended key out. Now I'll reach in here and just unscrew the whole socket and pull all this excess wire up until I've got my new wire. I cut the cord for the side lights to length before I pulled them, but for the center light I need a lot of extra wire just to do the work, so it's actually still hooked up to the spool at the other end. And when I get this all wired up correctly, I can pull that back down, roll that up, and I haven't wasted that much cord. This is the socket that came out of it. It's got this little adapter on the bottom of it, and it's just a regular shell socket. And being a fairly old one, it's solid brass, which makes this very stiff, and where you would have to press on it to get it apart, is pretty much inaccessible down the bottom of the shell. So I'm going back with a hickey socket. It's called a hickey because this little thing here on the bottom is called a hickey. Nobody knows why. And it's held on with a little screw. We'll just simply get it down here in the bottom and get it lined up. And the electrical part comes off the hickey, and I can wire this up on the bench. Then put it back together, pull it back down. I don't have any twisting, no turning, anything like that when I'm installing the socket. I always use blue thread lock on the threaded fasteners, because in this kind of work you can't always get it as tight as you wish you could. Turn this around to get the keyhole to the front. And a bit of very poor cinematography. I've got to reach in here, get this piece started on the end of the pipe. There we go, I've got it started. Now I can wire up the socket. And that starts with a little thread lock on the hickey and sliding it down and getting it around that little short piece of pipe. Since I've got two different types of socket here, I can break the usual sermon up into two parts. First, lamp cord is multi-stranded, lots of little small strands of copper. And that's so that the small wires can slip across each other, and that's why you can bend it like that, but it doesn't take a kink. However, the National Electrical Code dictates that stranded wire cannot be put under screw terminals. They would just splay out, get loose. You tighten it, they get loose again. And loose connections get hot. And getting hot means they expand. When they cool off, they get looser. It's just a never-ending cycle. So the trick is to take the multi-strands and turn them into one. And the way we do that is just a drop of solder on the tip. If you buy a cord set, which comes with the molded plug, the ends of it are going to be tinned already for you. Next, the lamp cord sold in North America has one side is smooth, one side has ridges. If you can't see them, you can still feel them. And the socket has one silver screw, one brass colored screw. The smooth wire always goes under the brass screw. You twist it around it clockwise so that when you tighten it down, it's going to pull the wire under the screw instead of pushing it out. Do the same thing on the silver screw, and then I get to try and put this back in there and get that little screw right there down in the hickey, which again doesn't make very good video. Now my custom lamp jig lets me hold this so that it's a little more comfortable, and the last thing I need to do is make sure that the key lines up. That part's finished. Now I can talk about the significance of the different colored screws. The brass colored screw goes through the switch. And an electrician talk, it's on the hot side of the circuit. The wire coming in is called hot, the wire going out is called neutral, but you're going to get shocked by either one if you play with them. But the neutral wire goes to the shell. So the scenario is, you walk into a dark room, you want to turn on the lamp, but for some reason there's no bulb in the lamp. You reach in here and instead of touching the key, you touch the shell. If you have a properly wired light, then this is not going to shock you. If you were to get shocked, first off, the lamp would have to be turned on, and you'd have to reach all the way down in here, stick your finger all the way into the socket. Now, how often that happens, I can't say, but it was a big enough problem that throughout the world, back in the 70s, they changed their electrical codes to try to reduce that hazard. And in Europe, they started making their sockets completely out of plastic with just little metal terminals down inside of it, which were very difficult to touch. That completely changed all the sockets. And in America, all we did was make the difference with the cord, where you could only plug the cord into the outlet one way, with this little wide prong and this narrow prong. And so, socket interior from 1920 and a socket interior from 2025 are both interchangeable. They work just fine for doing nothing more than just changing the way the wires were hooked up at the wall. There we go. One last point about using old shells, which in this case we're doing because of these threads here. But when they snap into place, you should be able to pull on it with all your strength and it won't come off. It gets released by pressing on a little spot here where one of the teeth slips out of the way, and then the whole thing comes out. These little threads here are called Uno, U-N-O. And they're made for a particular type of shade that has a large ring on it. This screws on here. I have never been able to find out what Uno, U-N-O, what that means, what the source of it is. If anybody knows, they can put their ideas in the comments. But this is very common on bridge lamps and other reading lamps and stuff, any kind of a lightweight lamp that you wanted to move around. It's quite common these days to see people put one of these adapter rings on here and fit it with a glass globe shade, and always a bad idea because these lamps are not made to have that much weight up top, and it's going to get knocked over, and well, that nice shade that you like so much, you're not going to have it anymore. Now we're down here at the bottom end, and I've fabricated a piece of strain relief that's a little more substantial than what was on it when it came in. Just a piece of pipe nipple welded to a piece of sheet metal, and I've got the cord bushings on each end of it, which will be more than enough to keep the cord from getting abraded, certainly in ordinary use. I have a knot in the main cord, which that's going to prevent it from getting pulled loose no matter how hard somebody kicks it. I have to drag the lamp across the room. And the connection is fairly simple. It's just simply every ridged wire goes to all the other ridged wires. Every smooth wire goes to all the other smooth wires. And then they're soldered. In the lab, all connections are soldered. We don't use wire nuts. Certainly don't just twist them and tape them together. That would not be satisfactory. I've always used solder for many, many years because way back in the early days, I rewired a chandelier and used the wire nuts like what was pretty much the industry standard. Went to install it and one arm didn't light up. Fortunately, it was easy to take the bottom off of it, and gave that wire nut another twist, and suddenly everything worked just fine. Did not want to have to go through that experience again, because not every chandelier is easy to work on when it's hanging from the ceiling. Now I give it a second to cool, run my hands over it, make sure I don't have any sharp points sticking out, and I cover the connection with shrink tubing. And as the name implies, it shrinks. push this down over the wires. Take a mini torch. It draws down tight. And with a little bit of lab overkill, bend this over and slide another piece on it. That ensures that that end, which is kind of pointy, it's got 2 layers of insulation over it. Now to take a zip tie, pull all this stuff down. And this job is finished. Now a lamp like this would have been sitting between 2 comfortable chairs in someone's den, and back from the days when people would spend their evenings reading instead of just watching TV. In any case, I appreciate you sitting through this video on this rather interesting floor lamp. So this is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. Appreciate you watching. Would really appreciate a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Any questions or comments are welcome. I answer all, respond to all, and appreciate all. And again, thank you for watching.